Welcome back to NBAV. We're here on the morning of January 16th, 2024. We're coming to you after a Martin Luther King Day, which was totally packed with NBA action, and we're going to take you through the league. We're going to highlight what was a weird night in a lot of ways. There were lots of strange things that happened last night on the 15th, and a really jam-packed night of NBA action. So let's just take it from the top. Let's go through it. Let's talk through some of the storylines and some of the highlights from last night. We had the Sixers beating the Rockets, 124-115. Philly got Joel Embiid back. He scored over 30 points for the 17th straight time, and he actually ended off the game with 41 points. So, Philly's going to be in hysteria. Embiid is back. He's the best. But I really hate the way he looks. And I understand that he can score. He'll always be able to score. He's a monster. He has touch. He can shoot it a little bit. But he just still looks big and slow. I understand he missed a few games, but it just feels like it's the same old story when you visually see him on the court. It seems like his weight is going to be an issue in the playoffs. He needs to, and we've been saying this forever, but he needs to get that under control. But it's disguised by 41 points, so how much are you actually going to be able to blame the guy? The problem is it's going to bite them in the playoffs again. It's going to continue to bite them in the playoffs because he's so good, and I've said this before, but the most dangerous thing you can have are players who are able to get you to the playoffs and can't get you to the championship because they lull you to sleep. Every regular season, over the course of 82 games, they drop 30, 30, 30, 30. There's no more guaranteed 30-point player in the NBA right now. Every game, he's 17 straight games with 30 points. It's ridiculous. And it's that's going to lull you to sleep and lead you as a Sixers fan to believe that they can actually go somewhere in the playoffs, but they can't. And especially not if he can't get his weight under control and he continues to rumble up and down the court looking out of shape. Anyway, Philly wins the game, beating the Rockets by 9. Dallas, in another game without their best player, Luka Doncic. They beat the Pelicans 125-120. And this was just an incredible Tim Hardaway Jr. game. The last couple of games, except for his stupid decision at the end of the Knicks game where he took a bunch of shots instead of taking time off the clock, putting that to the side, he's been on a tear. Hardaway with the game of his life. He was not missing. He was hitting shots all game long, but especially in the fourth quarter in the clutch. And, of course, supplemented by Kyrie with a couple of timely shots from Irving and 41 points from Hardaway. Absolutely just on a heater right now. And what better timing without Doncic winning a couple of games in a row while Doncic is out with injury? Unbelievable victories for Dallas. And Williamson for the Pelicans played a pretty good game, but he missed the first of two big free throws to tie the game. He had the opportunity to tie it up, missed the first one, hit the second one, and that was really all she wrote with just seconds to go in the game. He had an opportunity and didn't come through. You have to wonder at some point what are the Pelicans going to do they have CJ McCollum, but at the end of these tight games, and he's shown that in the end of playoff games and playoff series, he really struggles to get the same looks that he does in regular season games and early in games. In the playoffs, when things are a little tighter, smaller guard, more limited than some of the premier scorers in the league, he struggles. And Brandon Ingram contributed a bit here and there, but with Ingram, Williamson, and McCollum, you have to wonder who's going to stay, who's going to go, what's going to happen there in New Orleans. But Dallas with another important victory. The Pistons get a victory. Pistons win a game, 129-117. Granted, it was over the Washington Wizards, a 12-point victory, but what's noteworthy from this is they did it without their best player. They did it without Cade Cunningham. They got 34 points off the back of Alec Burks and 24 from Jaden Ivey and 20 from Jalen Duren. So something to think about is how is Detroit going to start to look at things if they can win some games and get good production from Jaden Ivey? Does that make Cade Cunningham expendable? Or vice versa? Do you see the production coming from Ivy and do you think, well, Ivy has value and we can get something for Ivy? You could definitely get more from Cunningham than you would for Ivy, but it's interesting to have two clear point guards who have talent on a team that is bereft of talent. And you think maybe they would want to, instead of having that talent consolidated in one position, where you really only want one point guard on the floor at a time anyway, maybe you take one of those point guards and you ship them out for something else or for future draft picks. So that's something to watch as the Pistons get their 4th win of the season. We move to the Magic, winning another game. This is just ridiculous. The Magic beat the Knicks. Granted, Knicks missing Jalen Brunson again. And the Knicks are proving that they're really lost without Jalen Brunson. He means everything to them. The Knicks are hoping that Miles McBride could provide enough in Jalen Brunson's absence to win games against teams that aren't that great. But they're proving that when Brunson's not on the floor, there are just minute and minute and minute long stretches where they're not scoring anything. The Knicks are completely reliant on Jalen Brunson, and in the playoffs, he's going to have to play almost the entire game. This is a game where if the Knicks had Emmanuel Quickley, there's a good chance they would win this game. But you win some, you lose some. When you make the OG trade and you win 5 games in a row when Jalen Brunson's on the court, you can't really complain about losing Quickley. But when Brunson's not on the court, you miss Quickley. Would the Knicks still make the trade? Of course, because you make the trades and you manage your team to where you assume you have all your players there. And if you have all your players on the court, the Knicks are a better team with OG than they are with Emmanuel Quickley. But in games where Brunson's not there, without their best player, of course, it's going to be tough. And in that case, they need a point guard. And that's what they've shown the last 2 games. They've struggled to score with Brunson on the sideline. But the Knicks essentially lost this game to Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony coming up with several massive scoring plays at the end of the game. And really a game that the Knicks could have won, should have won. And it's just unfortunate for them, but hey, the Magic are having a very strong season. I don't believe in them at all. But hey, young players, let them enjoy their success early on in the year, and then they'll probably lose most of their games down the stretch towards the end of the season. We move on to the Warriors losing again. But they lost. They didn't only lose, they lost to a team that's so shorthanded. They're probably the most shorthanded team in the NBA, in the Memphis Grizzlies. They're playing without John Morant and Desmond Bane. They're 2 top players. And the Knicks got beat by, listen to the top 2 scorers for the Grizzlies. Vince Williams with 24 and G.G. Jackson, not Jaren Jackson. He had 19, but G.G. Jackson with 23 points. Vince Williams and G.G. Jackson combining for around 45 points. 47 points. 47 points. Those 2 players, Williams and Jackson, have a combined age of 21. Warriors playing with Draymond Green, playing with Steph Curry, with Klay Thompson, with Andrew Wiggins, and they lose to the absolutely decimated by injury Memphis Grizzlies in what's becoming a nightmare season from hell for the Warriors. The Cavaliers have quietly won 5 games in a row. Good job by Cleveland. Donovan Mitchell getting it into high gear, beating the Chicago Bulls. And the story from this game is going to be, hey, Chicago, Zach LaVine comes back, they lose the game. And whether it's fair or unfair, this is just going to add fuel to the fire for when are the Bulls going to trade Zach LaVine and what can they get for him. If you can lose with Zach LaVine, You can certainly lose without him. So what is he really bringing to the table? If they're not winning games in Chicago with Zach LaVine, what reason do you have to keep him, or any player for that matter? But if they have Kobe White, who's gonna inspire confidence, and he's filling that role, and they're winning more games with Kobe White than with Zach LaVine, it's a no-brainer. You got to get rid of Zach LaVine. The question is just, can you get anyone to take him with his salary? Then, in a really weird game, the Miami Heat took overtime to beat the Nets. And after overtime, the score was only 96-95. So the Heat win in overtime in a game that would be considered a low-scoring game if it was just in regular regulation. 96-95 today is considered a relatively low-scoring game in the NBA. Neither team breaks 100 points. And not only did neither team break 100 points, but neither team broke 100 points with the extra 5 minutes of overtime. So really strange stuff from the Heat. But hey, the Heat are one of the weirdest teams in the league. The Heat didn't really have a roster that you would think could win a playoff round last year, or let alone 2 playoff rounds, let alone make it to the NBA Finals, and they did. And no matter who got injured on their team, as long as Butler was on the court, they were winning. And they win in weird ways. Last night, no exception, 96-95 victory over one of bottom half of the league, the Brooklyn Nets, 96-95. The Celtics getting a win over the Raptors. And the Jazz, the Utah Jazz, have really become something amazing. What they've done is they traded away Rudy Gobert. They traded away Donovan Mitchell. And you'd think they traded away all of their chances of being a good team. But the players that they got back have morphed into this organically legitimate team. And their players have moved naturally into their set roles. And that's something that you need. You need there to be the top player, the second to top player, guys who are okay being ancillary pieces, guys who are okay if they only score 4 or 5 points, but they're contributing, they're playing defense. Everyone needs to be happy in their roles. And Utah has Larry Markkinen has become this clear number 1 player on their team. He scored 32 last night in the victory where they beat the Pacers by 27 points, 132-105. So 32 from Markkinen and 30 from Sexton, who can't be ignored. His teams play well wherever he is. When he was in Cleveland, they did better than expected. When he's in Utah, better than expected. He's tough. He scored 30 last night. And then you have, coming off the bench, the rookie, Keonta George, with 19 points. And then you have Jordan Clarkson, the live wire, the real live wire, coming off the bench with 17 points. You have steadying veteran presence from Kelly Olynyk, good 3-point shooting, good passing. And you have Walker Kessler backing up at center. You have John Collins coming off the bench, Chris Dunn coming off the bench, and Ochai Agbaji, who is that player who's happy to contribute in a more quiet way, doesn't need the ball, doesn't need to score. He scored 4 points last night and got 4 rebounds, but he contributes to their success. What's happened with Utah Jazz over the last couple of years is they've turned themselves into a legitimate team. In one of the more surprising and unbelievable stories, they're currently 22-20, sitting at 9th, and 9th in the West, and they've beat a whole bunch of teams already this year that you would have thought they should never beat. In our last game of the night, we have the Lakers welcoming back LeBron James with open arms, and they beat The Oklahoma City Thunder, one of the best teams in the league right now. Boy, are they happy to get LeBron back. Because when things tighten up in the final few minutes in the fourth quarter, LeBron knows how to make plays. He runs the break very well. He scores in transition. Occasionally, he'll hit an open three. But it's really the end of games is when they need LeBron. You hope that with Reeves and D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Davis that they have enough to get to the end of the game and be in the close game. And in this case, they got there with a lead. They were up by 8 to 10 to 12 points in the fourth quarter. It went down to 6 at points. The Thunder kept fighting back. I think they got it down to 5 or 4. And then LeBron able to play make, able to get Davis the ball at the basket, able to get lay-ins. Lakers get a much-needed victory, and that's going to put them behind the Jazz. They're currently in 10th, and they're going to keep fighting. They're going to keep trying to move up, and hope that some of the other teams in the West go on some losing streaks and they can knock their way back into undenied playoff contention and hopefully not have to deal with the silliness of a play-in game. But that's pretty much going to round it out. A really packed Martin Luther King Day. Some weird games, some good games. And this is NB Ave, the NBA Avenue for sports talk and fun, casual conversation, and your NBA venue for a great time all the time. We'll catch you on the next one.